Good training is vital. Whatever your ambitions, or whatever equestrian activity you follow, the same basic training is required. This basic training is the foundation for more enjoyable riding, more successful riding, and a better and longer life for your pony or horse. Let us follow two young riders, Sarah from the Herworth Pony Club and Douglas from the East Lothian, as they do work with me from the syllabus of the Pony Club B test. Douglas is riding Buck for the first time, a 5-year-old, very novice Irish-bred horse who has his own opinion about most matters, but is basically a bright horse with tremendous potential, particularly as a jumper. Riders have to be very soft and quick to respond, or else he can get quite upset, but only because he likes to get on with the job. He does try to understand and do what is required. Although his trot is much improved, he still tends to run with short steps and an even shorter period of suspension between each beat. He is also rubber-necked, which makes it difficult to ride from the leg to the hand. If the rider works initially on developing a secure rein contact and a sympathetic relationship, it is then possible to begin to ride more from the leg, and he works well. Although Douglas has a problem here with the canter transition, he should not be too upset, because no rider is so good that they become immune to problems. What matters is how Douglas, or any rider, tackles the problem. Buck's canter is much better than his trot, as long as the balance is maintained. In particular, in canter, there is a clearer period of suspension. Although, like many young horses, he goes with his forehand slightly to the outside, which means he is not straight. This straightness must be improved, probably in his case through trot, and it must be done as a matter of priority. His walk with the rein tends to be hurried, but improves immediately the rein is lighter. Sarah rides Rooty, her own pony, a 14-2 of the best type. Always the life and soul of the party, he has given wonderful service for many years in the Pony Club. When looking at or riding a pony for the first time, it is important that the pony has worked on all 3 paces on both reins and probably jumped as well before any hasty judgments are made. Remember that every pony and every rider is an individual. Sarah obviously has a good relationship with Rooty, but she does tend to sit to the right, particularly on the left rein, as you can see here with her feet. And she is a little out of balance with her rising trot. She comes down too heavily into the saddle. Not a very accurate turn onto the centre line there by Sarah, Both Sarah and Douglas are at times horrendously inaccurate with their school movements. They will have to watch someone like Ginny Leng ride a test and learn how to ride from point to point. Ruti's canter is good, but as with all the paces, it lacks a little sparkle and connection from the engine room behind the saddle through to the front end. As this improves, his balance will also improve, and he will be less likely to fall on this forehand occasionally. Again, sitting a little to the right and the body leaning to the left. Quite a nice shape to the 15-meter circle, but there the lack of balance causes a problem. And once again, the forehand to the outside and not quite in control. But the overall impression is one of a very good partnership between horse and rider. So, Sarah and Douglas, now that I've seen you ride for the first time, we're ready to begin to work. And I'm glad that you've both taken off your jackets so we can get down to that work. First of all, Douglas, what did you think of him? I know that you've never ridden him before.
He was a bit on the hot side, but I think he could jump.
That's good. Yes, he is on the hot side. It's rather like playing snooker, using a snake as a cue at the moment, riding him. He's not so easy to control. So what we've got to do is work at his acceptance of you as a rider. And that's what you've got to concentrate on. There'll always be many things to concentrate on when we're riding, but we have to pick out the most important things. And I think with all horses to begin with, we have to first of all work at a basic acceptance. And at the moment, he's still a little green, he's still a little young. So the first thing we have to do is to get him accepting you better overall before we're ready to ride a dressage test. Sarah, how is your pony going? Is that as he goes normally?
Felt a bit stiff to begin with, but gradually loosened up. I wasn't still going forward.
It's important that I ask that question because sometimes horses go much better on one day, sometimes much worse. Now, I think we can help you if we work a little at your position, and I'm going to get both of you to do something. Both of you tend to ride with your seat tucked underneath you a little bit, and this makes it difficult for you to be really effective as riders. I'm going to ask you to emphasize that. So tuck your seat right underneath you, more than that. So you're like an old-fashioned gentleman sitting on a hunter with a great big round back. You can round the back as well. Go on, round the back, hunch the back, collapse, go on. Right, now do the opposite. Push your seat back and sit on your fork. More than that, and then you get this exaggerated dip in the small of your back and you feel terribly stiff and terribly wooden. Right, go back again to the other fault. Right underneath you, like a big hunting gentleman. Yes, that's good, Douglas. Right underneath you, more than that. Right, now see if you can settle somewhere in the middle. Now, when you settle somewhere in the middle, that's when probably you'll be sitting in the most natural way in the saddle and the easiest way to establish a balance. And that's the key thing we have to do when riding on the flat, looking forwards eventually to riding a dressage test, and that's to sit on the saddle, sit on our seats in a comfortable and central way. That should feel quite good. And then underneath you, Sarah, just bring the lower leg back a little bit. So you end up with a straight line from your shoulder through your hip and a straight line from your middle of knee down to the ball of foot. Let's just look at that line with you, Douglas. A straight line, you're still a little bit round in the back, that's it, and relax. Breathe in and breathe out and relax. A straight line down from the shoulder to the hip and then down the middle of the knee to the ball of the foot. Both of you just take your feet out of the irons a moment. Now make your leg as long as you can. A lot of people will tell you to ride with a straight line, shoulder, hip, heel. But in a general purpose saddle, which both of you have got, it's almost impossible. When you bring your leg back as far as that, you're on a wider part of the horse, and you'll find that it's not easy to keep your lower leg against the horse's side. So feet back in the irons, put your knee where it naturally goes. That's good. Right, So what we're going to do is to work at the main things. With you, Douglas, it's just at working at the acceptance of the horse. So the horse accepts the rider accepts the horse, that there is an association together. And the key word for you there is feel. You have to feel what his reaction is. You have to almost be a jump ahead of him. So next time when you come down the long side, as you feel him about to leave the arena, you can ride him forwards and ride out of trouble. Now, Sarah, your priority is to sit comfortably on your seat, so that as you sit more comfortably, you will then be able to ride more effectively from the leg. Right, Douglas, your key word is feel. And if you are going to feel what the horse is doing, then you really have to give yourself to the horse. You really have to become part of the movement of the horse, which means that your legs have to move with the movement of the horse's sides, and generally speaking, your leg contacts are good. Your seat has to move with the movement of the horse's spine, and again, your seat movement at the moment is good. But your hands have to go with and allow the movement of the horse's head and neck. And he tends to be a little short in the neck and to drop behind the bridle. And that's why he's a little difficult to steer very often. So without dropping the rein, you must make every effort to allow your hands to go with the movement of the horse's head and neck, so that your hands mirror the movement of the horse's mouth, so that your hands and the horse's mouth become as one. And the more you get in harmony with the horse, the easier it will be to feel. And the more you feel what is happening underneath you, the easier it will be to ride him and to be a jump ahead of him. That's a lot better, good. And it will take some time before his head and neck will move in a natural way, because often it moves a little short and a little back. And just circle round into the middle of the school, please, and halt, Douglas. Although I said that he wasn't really ready to ride a dressage test, he is ready to ride some simple movements, and from the beginning you should do everything you possibly can to go exactly where you want to go, so that you get used to riding accurately, ready for the test. If I was going to ride a circle from C, this is my first point at C. My second point is 4 meters past H, because from H to the corner is 6 meters. So this is my second point just before the flower tub. So I have 10 meters from here to the corner. And it's important that I ride absolutely accurately from C to this, my next point, and before I've got to this point, I'm already looking round to the left for my third point, which is on the center line, and it's 2 meters above the RS line. And then back to my fourth point, which I know is 4 meters above M. Here. 4 meters from M. But when I get here, I'm already looking towards C. Now, if I'm looking at the ground here, I'll end up riding down the long side some more. So before I get here, I'm already have my head turned, I'm already riding where I want to go, where I am looking, which is towards C. Right, I think he's a little easier on the left rein, so ride forward, change the rein onto the left rein, and ride that same circle. Go forwards to rising trot. Now, as you steer him, you must be careful that you don't pull back with the rein. You must still stay in harmony with the horse. So as you give the aid to ask him to come around, you must be careful that you don't draw back the hand and make him come even shorter in the neck. Good. So all the encouragement in the world through a soft arm to say, go on, Buck, take my hand, yes you can, go a little longer in front. Now feel what is happening underneath you. It's a little fast. Sometimes the regularity of step is lost, so slow it down slightly. And that was just an easier speed for him. And when he's got an easier speed, it'll be easier for him to stay in balance and offer regular steps. Now, all the time, riding a true circle to get him in the habit of listening to you and going exactly where you want to go. Looking ahead of yourself. Well done. Good. Good. And allow. Good. This is better. So it doesn't matter what movement it is, whether it's a half circle, whether it's a 20-meter circle, whether it's a serpentine, whether it's coming down the center line, every movement has to be very accurate. And over a period of time, you would work through the movements with a young horse like this until he can cope with changing the rein very often and changing the movement very often until he can go through a whole dressage test. And come forwards to walk. Shorten those stirrup irons now, Sarah. And give away the rein and make much. Now, he's a young horse. Riding for you should be a mixture of effort and delight, but particularly for him, it should be a mixture of effort and delight. And that's where your keyword feel comes in. If you feel that he's going slightly over the top, if you feel that you're asking too much, then you have to back off. But first of all, you have to start asking slightly too much to find out how much you can ask. First of all, you have to ask slightly too much to find out how much you can ask. And you will feel that you're asking a bit too much because he gets a little tense. You'll see the ears flash back. You'll feel a little resistance through the rein. So you back off a little bit and then start again. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
But the key, the basis to that is to feel how he's going. He's better on the left rein, you feel. So start on the left rein before you start doing something more difficult. A nice big shape. Feel the right speed for him, get the right direction. Okay?
Yeah.
Right, come on down here, Sarah, with those shorter leathers. Just let him stretch out on a loose rein, please, Douglas, there. And we'll work a little more in a moment. Leathers all shortened? Mm-hmm. Yeah. You got them really short. Right, come round and halt in the middle of the school in front of me, please. Now, you thought dressage wasn't fun. This is where dressage becomes fun. You had the balance on your seat. All of the weight on your seat there. What we're doing now is shortening the leathers. As you shorten the leathers, your seat has to go back a little bit. You take more weight through the leg. But the lower leg stays exactly the same.
To make it obvious to Sarah about her balance, I first get her to change her balance totally, taking her seat out of the saddle, with her weight acting through the leg. At first she finds it a little difficult, and sometimes the upper body comes too far forward. But certainly Ruti is very happy with this exercise. Then I do the opposite, taking away her stirrup irons for a few strides, while she holds on to the front arch. She then begins to realize how tightly she is holding on with her thighs, which restricts her from establishing the balance on her seat. Lunging work will help her to sit straighter and to establish a balance over a period of time.
There you are with the balance on your seat. And forwards to trot, and forwards to walk, and rest. Come on down, Douglas. What we have to do is to keep working at this, Sarah, until it's easy for you in walk, trot, or canter to stay on your seat without relying on your legs or your hands. And then you are truly, come and turn in towards me, then you are truly in balance on your seat. And if you're going to ride a horse on the flat, we're working towards doing dressage and a dressage test, then the key thing is that you're able to sit on your seat. And if you're sitting on your seat, you have freedom to use your legs, freedom to use your arms. Now, as you could see there, at the moment, you're still finding a little bit of a struggle to keep your balance. But in a very short space of time, especially if we work you on the lunge, in other words, that's if I control your pony and work just on your position without you having to worry about the pony, you'll find that we'll get a super balance. Good balance also applies to you, of course, Douglas. Your balance is slightly more established than Sarah. But your key word, and don't forget it, is feel, because you have to feel how the horse is going, because if you're going to ride, it's all about a partnership, and the horse must accept you as a rider, and no horse will accept you in the long term if you don't have a feeling for them. Feel is the key word, and it's what makes a real rider. Right. Thank you very much indeed. Now, I've changed your pony and horse today because you will learn something different from every pony and horse that you ride, and you should try and ride as many different ones as you possibly can while you're in the pony club. In particular, you'll learn how to develop a partnership, and the real key to effective riding is to develop a partnership with each pony or horse that you ride. Now, Douglas, you have one new piece of equipment today, a double bridle. Have you ever ridden with a double bridle before?
Yes, but only a few times, and I'd rather use just a snaffle rein.
If I understand, but that's the real start-off point, is the snaffle rein. The snaffle, or bradoon on a double bridle, is just what it says. It is a snaffle, and it fits in exactly the same way as a normal snaffle, just touching the corners of the mouth. The snaffle rein runs up through, in between the third and fourth fingers, as you normally hold a snaffle rein, and then out over between the thumb and the first finger. The curb rein below it comes up and then goes between, and have a look at this, Sarah, between the second and third fingers, and then also out above between the thumb and first finger. But to begin with, you hold the curb rein quite loosely, so you keep a contact with the snaffle rein in the normal way, and the curb rein is just decoration. Later on, you can begin to take up more of a feel on the curb rein. But if you look at this, Sarah, when this shank comes back to an angle of 45 degrees, the curb chain comes into contact. So to begin with, while we ride with the rein quite loose, the curb chain won't have any effect at all. And the curb bit fits below the snaffle bit. Very important that it fits below the snaffle bit, otherwise the horse won't be comfortable. And it acts on the bars of the horse's mouth. When it comes back to 45 degrees, then the curb chain would also act. Now, it's very important that you begin quietly with the double bridle, possibly by going out on hacks, until you're totally confident about using the two reins independently. And it's a very important technique to be able to use two reins. For instance, going across country, you might be using a gag with two reins, and you need to know how to use the two reins independently. We'd also use a double bridle showing a horse in a hunter class, or possibly a double bridle with a more advanced dressage horse. And that's what you're going to do now, Douglas. You're going to work at some of the movements required for the Pony Club B test on the flat. So I'd like you to go over now to the arena next door. Oh, and by the way, those black gloves wouldn't be legal for Pony Club dressage. You'd have to wear white gloves. Okay? Off you go, and I'll join you in a moment. Sarah, how does Lindy compare with your own pony, Ruti?
I find it a little easier to create an outline on her rather than mine.
Okay. Off you go forwards onto the left rein. Let me have a little look. You mentioned outline, and what I'd like you to do before you start thinking about outline is to remember three words. And they're the three most important words, I think, that I've ever learnt. And that's calm, forwards, and straight. Off you go to rising trot, first of all. Because no matter what you're doing, whether you're going to go to Grand Prix dressage, whether you're going to go to show jumping, whether you're going to go to make maximum use of your racehorse, or whether you just want to give your pony and horse a long and useful life, it's absolutely vital that you have your horse calm, forwards, and straight. Right, looking at Lindy there, I like it a lot. Because as you're working, she's quite calm. In other words, she's mentally quite calm and quite happy. She's quite forwards, and what I mean by that is that mentally she's thinking and going forwards. In other words, it's not hard work for you to go in that trot. And she's straight. Now, you might think it's rather strange that I talk about straightness on a circle, but what I mean is that as you go round the circle, the front legs and the hind legs both go in the same track. That the hind legs follow on in the same track as the forelegs on this circle shape. So that you have the horse going calmly, forwards and straight. And you will find that if you ride softly with the horse and ride the horse always calmly, forwards and straight, that you will be able to generate true impulsion. Now there's this rather difficult word that we all use about impulsion. Well, impulsion is more than energy. It's energy that comes through strongly and softly, all the way from behind, all the way up through to the horse's mouth, while the horse stays calm and thinks forwards. And you cannot have true impulsion unless the horse is calm, forwards and straight. So there's your beginning. Get the calmness, get the forwardness, get the straightness, use the leg a little more, gradually build up a little more impulsion, and then you will find that your pony will offer a nice outline to you without you doing anything else. You don't have to fix the hand. Indeed, it would be wrong to fix the hand, as so many riders do, and end up making the horse uncomfortable as well as themselves. Does that make any sense to you? So calm, forwards and straight, no fixing of the hand, and let the horse take a natural outline. Right, come forwards to walk. Yeah, a little bit abrupt there. Let's just do that once more. It's the first time you've ridden her, so you have to get the communication right. So when you're ready, in your own time, but take a little more time about it, forwards to walk, to give her a little more warning. You know, over a period of time, she will adjust to you there, and you will adjust to her a little more, and she'll stay a little softer through her middle as she comes forwards to walk. So the last thing we need to be very aware of is the regularity of steps, the correctness of steps. Do you know how many beats there are in walk? 4 beats. Can you call out the time of those 4 beats that Lindy's offering at the moment? Good. It's with her, but you're actually beginning with the outside legs rather than the inside legs. As an exercise, I would like you to begin with the inside hind leg being number 1. Always on a circle, the inside hind leg is so important anyway. So using 1 for the inside hind leg, say it again. Excellent. So you are aware of the regularity of steps, and there should be an equal space of time between each beat. In the walk, an equal space of time between each beat in the trot and the canter. And over a period of time, it will be absolutely second nature to you to be aware of the regularity of steps. You will find that a lot of horses, as you go on much faster, that they sometimes lose that regularity of step, in which case you must go back a stage and not ask so much. In the same way, if you're doing a particular exercise and you lose the calmness, the forwardness or straightness, you must go back a step. Christine Stuckelberger in the Olympic dressage test, her horse maybe loses calmness at one time. So in her training, she must go back a step and do something that's easier, so the horse gets calm, and then she must ask the exercise again. Okay? So those are the 3 most important words I think I learnt in the Pony Club. Calm, forwards and straight. Give away the rein and make much. What we're going to do now is to work a little more on your position, and as I said yesterday, I think the lunge will help you. So if you go back to the stables and get Rooty, I'll see you in a few minutes, having looked at Douglas. Thank you very much.
As every forward movement is done out of a pace, a walk, a trot or a canter, it follows that that pace must be correct. Now this is a degree of pirouette with the front end moving round the hind end. It's done in walk, so we must still maintain a walk sequence with 4 beats. For a pirouette, you would need to have the horse more on his back end, with more weight on the back end, with a degree of collection. But it must still stay a true walk. And here we're losing some of the steps.
Good,
But
that's
the
coming
control
well.
is quite good for a first time. Now the rein back is slightly different. The rein back moves almost in 2 time, in diagonal pairs. A little hurried, but again well done on a strange horse.
Be sure to keep the contact on the Bradoon rein.
Now as you
all the
begin to
time.
do these movements, the horse must be between the leg and the hand. The horse must be becoming connected from the leg to the hand. Some people talk about it as being between the aids or on the bit. And sometimes this mare objects to being put between the aids, swishes her tail and indeed stops going forward. Here Douglas increases the speed and impulsion, and as a result the stride
Although you must have
lengthens.
felt a good difference.
And here the same thing in trot. As he increases the speed,
Keep the contact
the
on the
stride
left rein.
naturally lengthens a little. So we have some lengthened strides in trot. And as he decreases the speed, the stride should shorten a little.
See if you can produce a bit more
Of course,
difference
as he
this time.
rides this small circle, he should be in sitting trot. Now the tempo, that's the speed of the rhythm, should stay the same
Better.
as he increases and decreases the speed. Here in trot, as he went a little faster, there were some unlevel steps, which would suggest he doesn't have enough impulsion for that trot at the moment. Here in canter, the rhythm is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, pitatum, pitatum, pitatum. Let's see if the speed of the rhythm stays the same. Tum, 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 tum. Really pretty good. Tum, tum, tum as he shortens. Now here I'm giving Sarah the opportunity to work on her position
Bring the knee back.
without having to worry about controlling the horse.
And now once again, adjust
You don't
the
have
leg
to be
position.
lunged for long periods of time,
And then
but
put
if
the
you can
hand
be
back on the
lunged for
front
short
touch.
periods, it really helps to improve your position,
A little deeper.
and as the position is improved,
Good.
then you can begin to ride more effectively.
And the inside hand hanging
By
down
holding
again.
on to the front arch of the
Keep the arm
saddle,
swinging exercise,
it's
forwards,
possible
back,
to help
forwards and around.
Sarah establish her balance on her
Throw it
seat,
around, all the way around.
and then little
Keep
by
the shoulders
little
square.
we work at getting
Throw it around.
independent use
And back.
of the
Throw it
legs
around, no stopping, no,
and the
always
arms and
same
hands.
direction. Forwards, back, forwards and around. Forwards,
It's important that you only have a lunge
back,
lesson on a pony or
throw it
horse
around,
that is well used to
rest,
giving lunge lessons,
and rest.
and that the
Inside hand
teacher
hanging down,
is
keeping
skillful at giving a lunge
establish
lesson.
the position, then hand back to the front arch. Very good. And walk.
And then having a lunge lesson
Good
can be
routine.
really enjoyable.
Well done. Give him a pat. Right, Sarah, we've come indoors because of the rain, but really all this work can be done outside. And I want you to look at this walk and count the beats just as you did with your other pony, Lindy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Once again, Douglas. See how he was doing a little bit of pirouette, but he got a little stuck, that the regularity of the steps weren't there. Now, a pirouette or a demi-pirouette, which is a half pirouette, 180 degrees, is done out of a walk. So unless we keep the regularity of steps, it is no longer a good movement. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That was better. And change the rein, Douglas, and we'll try it on the other rein. And it's establishing these things early on, getting it absolutely second nature to you, that if you're doing a movements in trot, you keep the regularity, the 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Something in canter is pitatum, pitatum, pitatum. You're always aware of the regularity of steps. Now that's interesting. I think that you could have seen that very clearly as he went to the right there. He actually leant to the left. Douglas, just come round and halt just in front of us, facing away up to the curtain. Just stay where you are, Sarah. Maybe move up a little closer. Douglas, can I borrow your stick? Good girl. It was much better to the left, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Could you feel the regularity of steps? Good. Ooh, girl. They should respect the stick but not be frightened of it. Sometimes it takes a little time there. Right, I am putting my stick, I hope, along the line of his spine. Now, with all normal riding, the horse's spine and the rider's spine should be in the same line. Now, Douglas, could you, without moving your seat, lean to the left? Now, that's how you were getting when you were doing your degree of pirouette or pirouette to the right.
Yeah.
Now, if you're going to do a pirouette to the right, you need to go with the movement. So if anything, you need to go a little the other way. Well, good girl. Take your stick back. Walk on round to face us. What we're talking about here, Sarah, is language. Douglas, your weight and where your weight was acting is part of the language we use to communicate with the horse. Just come and halt there. Now, your weight should go with the movement of the horse. So if I want to go to the right, I go to the right with my partner. If I want to go to the left, I go to the left with my partner. I don't know whether you've ever seen a racehorse go very fast round a corner. It actually leans considerably in as it goes round the corner. Now, the jockey on top leans in with the horse, goes with the horse, not leaning outwards and making it more difficult for the horse. So the weight always with the movement. Now, Sarah, if you would gently go back behind Douglas's stick, just to confirm again about the leg. The leg in the normal position with the stirrup leather parallel to the girth means
Forward.
forwards. And it's always going to mean forwards, whether we're on a pony that's only just been ridden for the first time or with a more advanced dressage horse. The left leg, the right leg, both legs together in the normal position should mean go forward. And then it's clear and simple for the horse. If I bring Douglas's leg back a little bit, there his leg is in a position to control the quarters, rather like having a wall there against the side of the horse. And if Douglas uses the leg in an inward movement, saying over, over, then he's going to actually be able to move the quarters to one side, which you'd be required to do later on. But all you're doing in the pirouette is just controlling the quarters with the outside leg brought a little back. Now, our hands, our legs work together in cooperation. They help each other. If I want to turn to the right, Douglas has to use his right hand with a normal aid. Take, give back again, and increase and lighten. A tweak, I call it. The outside rein at that time can control the speed. So as I'm asking the horse to turn to the right direction with the inside hand, the right hand, I can control the speed with the outside hand. Now, you don't have to use all of these aids together. You have to decide what you need at what time, and that's where the feel comes in. But you want to keep your same language going throughout the training of your pony or your horse so that the horse is comfortable with that language and they actually begin to enjoy it because they know what you want. It's a lovely feeling. Right, just take up the reins, Douglas, and go forward to that nice new spanking trot that you've got. And I want you to look at it, Sarah, because it has improved in the quality, and that Douglas should be able to feel this. Just circle there, Douglas. The horse is more confident, is a little more calm, you could say, and the horse is also more connected from the back end through to the front end. Therefore, she has a little more impulsion, and she appears to be a little lighter on her feet. Right, Douglas, when you're ready, just take sitting trot. Close your seat to the saddle, sit upright, and try and spread your seat over the saddle. It's still a little difficult for Douglas at the moment, but over a period of time, he'll be able to sit more solidly on his seat, and she's well able to take him there in the sitting trot. You'll get a little longer than that, Douglas, over the next few days, but it would be foolish of you to start trying to ride too long and not being able to keep a contact of the lower leg. And forwards to walk, and give her a pat. Never forget, you must keep the quality of the work. It must be good work, and from good work you build to more advanced work. Well done. Thank you, Douglas. Right, we're going to ride a course of fences, and you have warmed your horse and pony up in the normal way, and you've walked the course, so you're ready to go. Now, riding a course of fences is no different from anything we've done so far. We've worked on the flat, and we started off, for instance, riding a circle. And for a circle, we rode from point to point on the circle. When you ride a course, you ride from fence to fence, so you have to get the direction right. Now, Sarah, what were your 3 key words which you learnt on the flat with Lindy?
Calm, forward, straight.
So the horse has to be calm, forward, straight. The same applies when jumping fences. If the horse is not calm when jumping fences, not only could it be dangerous, but certainly the horse will not be able to jump as big a fence as easily as they'd otherwise be able to do if they weren't calm. If they're not going forwards, they possibly will even stop. And if they're not straight, you're going to find that in a double or a combination, they may even run out, or again, they may twist or find it difficult to jump. So they should be calm, forwards, and straight. The first key word that I gave you, Douglas, was what?
Feel.
Feel. You have to feel whether the horse is accepting you all the way around the course. When you're only schooling, it's easy when the horse gets a bit upset to stop and to get the horse settled again before you go on. I want you to also feel one more thing, both of you. I want you to keep asking yourselves whether the horses are in balance. Now, they could lose balance because, like I am here lifting one leg, I could just fall over because I've lost my legs. Sometimes a young horse will just lose its legs temporarily. They slip. Or they could lose balance, rather like you running down a very steep hill. What happens when you run down a very steep hill on your own 2 feet?
Fall forward.
Yes, you fall forward and you start going faster and faster and faster and faster. Now the horse has got 4 feet, so what happens is it falls forwards onto its front 2 feet. It's 4 feet. Now in that case, invariably, the answer is to slow down the speed and let them regain their balance. So as you go around the course, if you find they're beginning to lose their balance, even at the speed you're going for jumping a show jumping course, then probably it's better to use the arena to slow down, use the corner to slow down a little bit, let them rebalance, and then go on. So you use your feel to find out whether they are in balance or out of balance. And the last thing I have to say is, this is an exercise. Jumping a show jumping course is just an exercise, like riding a dressage test. And no exercise is worth doing unless you do it with enthusiasm. So particularly with a show jumping course, throw your heart over first. So we'll start with you, Sarah. Douglas, go over to the corner over there with Buck. Sarah, have a canter round and warm him up again. Off you go, Sarah. Have a good canter all the way around the arena.
As with the flat, first of all, an assessment has to be made to see what things are good and in
Yes
which
or no?
areas Sarah can be helped in the short term.
Right, the bell is gone. Begin when you're ready.
From the start, the canter looks a little lifeless. And there are some obvious problems with direction. But most of all, the canter is not going forward sufficiently. And she took 7 strides there between those 2 fences. And for this size of pony, if he was going more forward, he really should take that in 6 strides. With the combination, her position improves, but as soon as she's finished the combination, she tends to collapse a little bit. Thereby not looking far enough ahead of herself, the line for that fence, and indeed right up to the last fence, were slightly wrong. But the biggest problem was just not going forwards sufficiently.
Well done, Sarah. Out you come, Douglas, and I'm just going to put the back pole on the combination. You've never jumped around on this horse before, but there has to be a first time for everything. Off you go.
Douglas has a much more difficult job riding a horse that's new to him for the first time round a course of fences. But a good landing after the second fence, and good line from the second to the third fence. At the moment he's keeping Buck well under control, and he's showing a good steady position over a fence. There Buck charges a little bit and then loses the jumping technique. He's too slow to look for the next fence, so although the horse is not being very easy, he could have made it easier by being absolutely sure where he was going, by looking from one fence to the next.
Well done, give him a pat. Now, I think you're both going to be helping at your own pony club camps, are you not, fairly soon?
Yes.
Are you, Sarah? Are you, Douglas?
Yes.
Are you looking forward to it?
Yes, definitely.
You mean you've had your arm twisted to do it?
A little bit.
Sarah, have you done it before?
No, first time.
Yeah. It's an excellent thing to do. It's an excellent thing to do not only because it gives something back to the pony club, but it can also teach you so much about riding that will help you. Very important to do. One of the golden rules that I would have as a teacher, and for you going to teach at a pony club camp to begin with, is that you don't begin to make changes until you've seen the horse, the pony, the child in action, unless you think there is something that's dangerous, some tack that doesn't fit, something that's totally out of control, then you'd have to put a stop to it. But don't make changes until you've seen them go. Now with you, Douglas, I've asked you to take off the martingale because I don't think there's a need for the martingale now. And with you, Sarah, we've gone back to your plain snaffle because I don't think there was a need for the stronger bit, the Kimblewick, with or without the curb chain. But I didn't mind you jumping in your Kimblewick without the curb chain to begin with. I see you jump, there was nothing dangerous there, and then when we've assessed the situation, then I can say, well, I think we'll try a change. Now, it may be that the change is not for the better. And that's another thing as a teacher that you must be aware of, is that you might be wrong. And as a rider, you might be wrong about making a decision with a horse. That doesn't matter. What matters is how you react to a problem. What main problems do you think you may have with these horses, or how do you think they jumped that course? I liked a lot of what you did. I really did. I liked a lot. What did you think, Sarah?
I felt we could have been more rounded. It was a bit out of control. Some places which I should have taken more contact. It was me rather than him.
Okay. I particularly said, what did you like, or what did you think that you did well? And you come out with something that wasn't quite good. And I suppose that's the second golden rule, should be, it's goods before bads. Now, when you start teaching, you will start mentioning the goods before the bads. Everybody does things that are good, and everybody does things that are not so good. I was jumping fences quite fluently in 14-2 opens and things like that before I could do a rising trot. I went to my first Pony Club Championship and I couldn't do a proper rising trot. It doesn't mean to say that overall I was useless. I just couldn't do one particular exercise very well because I was too silly to listen to any teachers. Now, what I did like about your round was that I always knew that you were going to get to the end, and you got round clear. You were confident and you were calm, and I knew you were going to get to the end. Now, if I can say that, then it's a great compliment to you, and we must never lose that. I mustn't work you in such a way as you lose that confidence, or I lose Ruti's confidence and calmness, and I want to continue to ensure that you jump round safely and clear. So that was very good. Douglas, what about your round?
It was very onward going, and the horse jumped nicely. There's one or two times when I let him go on too much, and one or two fences we were wrong at because of that.
Yeah. Now, just as I would say to Sarah, don't be worried too much about the outline at this stage, I would say to you, don't be too worried about the stride when you say you got the horse wrong at the fence. At this stage, with these very small fences, with a young horse, I would say don't be too much worried about the stride. I think you're absolutely right. What happened is he went occasionally too fast. He occasionally lost his balance, which I was talking about before. And that's why in a moment I want to go to a slower speed and to trot into a fence. Having jumped the round as we did, we must now repair the situation as far as we can. So we'll trot into a few fences, and we'll probably use a placing pole so that he can be more confident about where to take off. Now, Sarah, I want you to look at Douglas's position as we jump this fence. Not too much worry about the horse, but look at Douglas's position, because I think we can show you one or two things to help you. But the big thing I would pick out that will help you as regards your overall riding of the horse is to remember not just calm, not just straight, but it's calm forwards and straight. And when he has more mental willingness to go forwards, and you land probably feeling that you can go slightly faster, rather than land and go slightly slower, then everything is going to come together so much more easily. Don't worry so much about outline. What we want is more forwardness, and I'm going to help you with that after Douglas has jumped this fence. So go forward, Douglas. Nice big circle. And Sarah, while he's doing that, shorten your leathers 2 holes. Now, the main purpose of this, Douglas, is just to get him settled coming down to the fence. So we'll see what happens. We've got a placing pole to help him. A little bit anxious in front of the fence, getting slightly too fast. So a little bit of walk, about a dozen strides away from the fence, and then trot on again. If you're going to use a placing pole, make sure you've got somebody who really knows what they're talking about to help you, because it can be more of a hindrance than a help if it's in the wrong place.
Depending on the horse, the placing pole might be anything between 8 to 12 feet in front of the fence.
Right, forwards to walk and give him a pat. That was much nicer. Sean, could you put the fence up a couple of holes, please? Right, as he jumps it next time, Sarah, I want you to be particularly aware about where his weight is. Do you remember where most of your weight was when you were riding dressage, when you were riding on the flat?
On the seat.
Yeah, absolutely on your seat. Now, if I was in a dressage saddle, I would sit down on my seat and I could eventually get a straight line, shoulder, hip, heel. But the line I want you to be even more aware of is the line we've already mentioned from the middle of the knee to the ball of the foot. So here I am in my dressage position, and then I shorten. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm racing, Leicester Piggott if necessary. 10 holes. But my lower leg is staying the same. As I shorten, I might get a little more angle in my ankle, but otherwise the lower leg stays the same. Okay? So we're taking more weight through the leg. As we go longer, we can put more weight on our seat. We can close our seat with the saddle, and it's good to close your seat with the saddle and stay close to the horse, but the weight is taken more through the leg. Right, have a look at this. Are you ready, Douglas? Off you go. Same thing. Now this horse, Sarah, for Douglas is not an easy horse to sit on. He's very wriggly, and sometimes he makes some shapes that are difficult to sit with. He makes a very big shape. But that's why we want a balanced position, because the more balanced we are, the more we can begin to go with the horse. In other words, to be in harmony with the horse. Trot on there, Douglas. Don't interfere with the rein. Yeah, as you land, Douglas, concentrate on your lower leg position. It's just slipping forwards a little bit. Your seat is slipping back as your lower leg slips forwards. So stay over your lower leg a little bit more. Try not to interfere with the rein at all in the last couple of strides. Here, Sarah, he's putting the horse more between the leg and the fence as opposed to between the leg and the hand. So we don't worry so much about the shape of the horse. But we want the horse to look at the fence. Now, he's landed all disunited, but that was much better on the takeoff. One last time, Douglas. But particularly note where most of his weight is acting, just in front of the fence and over the fence and on landing. That's the crucial times. Just in front of the fence, over the fence and on landing. Talk to him if you want to. Ho, fella. Ho. Good. And pat. Much better with the landing. Can you see where his weight is acting there, Sarah?
You put the weight down the back of your leg to the heel.
I try not to talk about down the back of the leg to the heel because I don't want you to get like that. Do you see? A lot of riders exaggerate that, particularly in America where I go. They exaggerate that leg position and it gets them very stiff. The line is from the middle of the knee to the ball of the foot. And you must start saying that to yourself, middle of the knee to the ball of the foot. So the weight is to the iron, not to the heel, which makes you do that. And sometimes that's exactly what was happening with Douglas. Now that's a very safe position if you're jumping a drop fence across country or jumping into water, yes. And that's so important for you to be able to do that for safety, but not all the time, because you'll end up tottering backwards. You'll lose your balance. So your balance is more with the weight through the leg. That's the straight line that's important. Do you understand? Okay. Now you've shortened your leathers a couple of holes. Just as an exercise, off you go, out round the arena in canter with your seat out of the saddle in a nice forwards canter. Straight forwards. Douglas, that was great. Just bring him forwards to walk and then halt by this red fence here and let him rest. Give him a pat. Right, get the bum out of the saddle. Good. Just as an exercise, I want you to establish this balance, and in a moment we're going to come down to a fence with your seat out of the saddle. Have the reins a little bit shorter and don't rest on your hands. Bring the hands a bit higher, keep a bend in the elbow. Good. Right, now I want you to increase the speed round the circle, and I mean increase the speed round the circle. Come on, you've got a big hungry lion chasing you. More than that, go on! And now decrease the speed. Decrease the speed. Ask him to slow down. More than that. Slower, slower, slower. Good. Now increase the speed. That lion's with you again. Thank you. Good. Now slow down the speed a little bit. A little. Now come round and jump fence 3, but keep your bum out of the saddle for the moment. Just as an exercise. Not because I want you to do that all the time. Keep the forwardness. Keep the forwardness. That lion is there. Land with the weight through the leg. Stay going round to the left. Once more, but I want you to come inside those fences next time. Do you understand? Good girl. Now don't stop the forwardness round the corner. Toe up, heel down, forwards, forwards and look. Super. Forwards to trot. Make much. So outline is not the first priority. If the horses are going forwards, they can begin to jump. We must have the forwardness there as long as you're under control, whether with a young horse like this, Douglas, when you're out of trot, or whether we're out of canter. That was very nice, Sarah. Well done. We're just going to do an exercise to confirm that balance. So jump off your horses. Sean, would you hold them for them? When you dismount, face the same way as the horses. It's safer and it also leads up to exciting things like mounting and dismounting at the canter, vaulting and vaulting off. Right, stand as I'm standing. Put your feet a little way apart, please. Little more, Douglas. Little more. And then I'm putting my stick by my foot, coming up vertically above it. And then I'm going to bend my knee and put my knee over the foot. Unless I bend my knee, I can't do that. So I want the same width between the two knees, a little more, as you have between the 2 feet. You've got a very wide horse. Same width between the 2 knees, little wider. That's it, that's it. And then watch me. From the side view, you've got that straight line from the middle of the knee to the ball of your foot. Just put your sticks there. And then as I'm going to lower my seat, I'm going to shorten my leathers, but the lower leg is staying exactly the same. Until I could go all the way down, and my shoulders could almost touch my knees. Go on, see if you can do that. All the way down. Further down, Sarah. Yes, you can. Now come up again. Good, Douglas. Don't let the knee come forwards. Down again, without the knee coming forwards. Good. Excellent. Just one more time. Down again. No, that's it. That's it. Stay there a moment. Stay there a moment. Now, if you're training a horse for horse trials, cross-country or racing, you may have to stay there for a quarter of an hour, 20 minutes. What's it feel like, Sarah?
I can.
Come on up and rest. To begin with, anything like that hurts a little bit, but with horses or with riders, make sure you don't do too much so you don't pull muscles. But it will hurt a little bit in the muscles on the inside of the thigh. It will hurt a little bit in the small of the back. So you have to keep practicing it, doing little and often.
To practice this, we use a 6-stride related distance, related by distance to allow the horse to come down to the fence in a consistent way with even strides, which allows the rider to concentrate on their position. Here Buck leaves out a stride, putting Douglas in a very difficult situation, but he does well to cope and doesn't really interfere too much with the horse on landing. Coming again, he does it in 6 strides correctly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 strides. Position very good on takeoff and through the air. He brings back the upper body a little early, but again doesn't interfere in any way. And viewed from behind, we can see how straight Douglas is. He stays over the horse and doesn't lean in or lean out, which is excellent. Sarah finds the related distance very useful to develop a consistent approach, but positionally, her lower leg still tends to move too much, and over the fence, rather than folding at the hip joint, allowing her seat to go back a little, she just leans forwards, which disrupts her balance. She has to try more to close the angles of the knee and hip joints to absorb the movement and allow the horse to do more of the jumping while she stays a little stiller. Now that was better, but it will of course take time for her to establish this new balance. From behind, it is easy to see how Sarah moves her body too much to the inside and makes it more difficult for Ruti to find his balance, particularly to go round the corner.
Well, I enjoyed that, and Ruti and Buck certainly jump much better. Do you see how you can really look at a course of fences as a grid? Because if you come in a regular way from the first fence to the second fence, it's really just a sort of an extended grid. And if you can keep this regularity between fences, it makes it so much easier for your horse to be aware of what's coming up and to maintain their balance, and then they'll be able to jump much better. And of course, it makes it much easier for you to then concentrate on the direction, on getting the right lines, going in the right direction. What did you both think of how your horses went? Douglas?
I find it a lot easier to maintain balance and a good stride into the second part of the combination.
In fact, you didn't have to worry about the stride, did you?
No.
Not at all. And I think if you can get all the basic ingredients right, you will find you won't have to worry so much about stride. And of course, there are a lot of people who never see a stride at all. They just keep the right direction, balance, speed, and impulsion. And then you can really look good, as though you are controlling everything. But in fact, it's happening by itself. It's a result of you having the right ingredients. And Buck there is offering there the sort of jump in canter, which he's offering in trot. So it'll be interesting to see when we string a few more fences together, if you can maintain that. Sarah, what did you think?
I felt this exercise helped me and him, because I have this problem of him going forward. And the trotting pearl helped to keep him with me.
I just used the placing pole there in front of the fence just to make sure that we come down to the fence every time in the same regular way, and that's very important. You always have this problem about him going forwards, do you? I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to do an exercise in a moment that will help you with that. But I'd just like to emphasize that the going forward is exactly the same as riding with the dressage. You must be very simple. The legs in the normal position, stirrup leather parallel to the girth, mean go forward. Right leg, left leg, both legs. Don't get complicated. The legs ask the horse to go forward. The legs in the normal position, while the hands control and direct that energy. But you begin with the leg. Flat work, jumping, exactly the same. Does that make sense? Good. And also there's this a word I sometimes use, empathy. To have empathy with your horse means that you're able to put yourself in place of the horse, to imagine what the horse is thinking. Now, often when they come over the first fence, there may be 3 or 4 fences in front of them. They don't know which one they're going to jump. They may make the decision themselves. But you must be aware of what they're thinking and then react accordingly. And to be truly effective, you have to have this empathy. You have to be able to put yourself in the place of the horse. Does that make any sense to you?
Yes.
Good. Okay, Sarah, let's come and do this exercise. Douglas, I'd like you to go to the center of the arena and watch this. Sarah, in a moment I'd like you to take a nice bright canter on the right rein and come round and jump the first fence, same second fence, but out of canter. I've taken away the placing pole. And as you go from one fence to the next, I'm going to count and see how many strides you take. Off you go. Nice bright canter. Get your balance right. Try not to sit to the back of the saddle. Take more weight through the leg. Your reins are a little long. Nice bright canter now. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6. Right. Keep cantering, but at the top corner, slow down the speed and do a small circle. Little more leg. Little more leg. Small circle. Right, now I want you to come again and put an extra stride in. 7 strides. We'll see what happens. Just because you're slowing down the speed, it doesn't mean you don't use the leg or keep him going forwards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Very good. Try not to lean to the right. Right, increase the speed. Increase the speed. Come down over the 2. 5 strides. Keep the weight through the leg. Come on now, you've got that hungry lion after you again. 5 strides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Super! Come and join us in the middle. Give him a pat. Well done, Sarah. I bet you haven't done that before.
No.
What we're doing is exactly the same as with Douglas in the dressage arena. where he was decreasing the speed with getting a shorter length of stride, and then increasing the speed and getting a longer length of stride, the shortening and lengthening. And this shortening and lengthening eventually leads to true collection and extension, but that's a little way off. So between two fixed points, the first jump and the second jump, you can do either 5, 6 or 7 strides. But it's pure dressage, in fact. Riding between the fences is dressage. One will help the other. And it's interesting to see that we can use this exercise to help your dressage work. Of the different stride lengths, which one suited him best when you had 5, 6 or 7 strides?
6.
Yeah. And that's the canter which you should choose to jump a whole round, because he's easiest in that canter. He finds it easiest to jump the fences. And we can also use this knowledge of the horse's stride length to help us at home when we school, so that we can build a little grid to suit your individual horse. With your horse, it will be a little bit shorter than with Douglas's horse. Probably his working stride length at the moment is around 11 feet. Probably with his stride length at the moment, Douglas, it's around 12 feet. And when you walk a course of fences, particularly between a double, first fence and second fence, or a combination, if it walks a little long, you know that you have to increase the speed a little bit. If it walks short, then you know you have to decrease the speed a little bit. And this will help enormously in you jumping around. An excellent exercise. Well done. I remember when I went to possibly my first important competition that I was totally useless to begin with, because I was thinking so much about what I'd been taught instead of thinking about what I was actually doing at that moment. And we have to be very careful that we don't become too technical in our teaching or in our riding. And the good thing about adopting a balanced position is that it will become instinctive, that you won't have to think about it. You will be jumping your round, or you'll be riding your dressage test. You won't have to keep thinking about your position. It should just come naturally, and that's very important. Now, if we are going to a competition, or if we are going to work the horse very hard, then we must make sure that we warm them up very carefully. And possibly the best way of warming your horse up to begin with is just going for a 20-minute walk, or a 20 or 30-minute walk, and then to begin to work slowly. Now, once you've started doing some real work with the horses, what do you work on just before a test or just before a show jumping round?
Getting the horse as relaxed as possible and getting the best results before you do your test.
Yeah, getting the best from the horse. We must aim to ride forwards in a positive way, which leads to getting the best from our horse. But we mustn't try too hard. You see some people being sort of rather like a ruffian on their horse because they're just trying so hard. They'll use every single physical effort that they've possibly got to get over a fence or to hold the horse together. You've got to be very careful that you do build a partnership with the horse and don't become a ruffian. But equally, you can't be timid. You have to do something positive. So if you're not going to be timid, what sort of things could we do in our warm-up that are going to help the horses? Sarah, do you have any thoughts there?
Get him to go forward more, and straight, do quite a lot of canter. You can see that supples him up.
But when it comes down to it, we can't have everything. So what I would suggest to you is that you work in exactly the same way as we have analysed the horses so far. In other words, you choose things, first of all, the horse can do that are easy for the horse. Something gentle, something easy. Now, your horse probably finds it easier to canter than it does to trot. So after you've done your early walk work, probably better to work in some large canter circles rather than some large trot circles. And if you were preparing, for instance, for a jump round, what you would do, Douglas, is actually to trot into some smaller fences rather than to canter into fences, because that would prepare him better. And with your pony, what I would do, Sarah, is canter into fences, and not canter slowly. I would canter at a nice, strong forwards canter, which would prepare me better for jumping a course. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So we've actually done a bit of preparation. We're ready to jump the course. Douglas, we're not going to jump the whole course with you because your horse, as we realise, is still a little young. He's only a baby, hasn't been riding long. So what we need to work on with him at the moment is just to jump a few fences at a time until we can link a whole course of fences together. But Ruti's quite ready for a course, so we can go away and do it in one moment. As I said, don't worry too much about position. I'm going to howl at you if you start sitting on the back of the saddle again. What you need to think about is getting the right direction, which means look from one fence to the next, and I mean look from one fence to the next. The right direction, the right balance. Therefore, we need the canter that you had when you went 6 strides between that related distance, between those 2 rustic fences. The right direction, the right balance, the right speed and impulsion. And over a period of time, it will be easier for you to judge the right speed and impulsion. To begin with, just the balance, the type of canter that you had between those 2 rustic fences, and it's going to be tremendous. Okay, Douglas over to the corner. Sarah, have a good canter round, and then we can start. And begin the course when you're ready. Come on, that's not enough. A little stronger. Circle. A little more in gear. Get the motor going a bit, thank you. A little more. Well done. Good girl. Now you're ready. Good girl. Keep the motor going. Keep the motor going. Look
Now
up,
let's
look where
see
you're
how many
going.
strides she takes between these next 2 fences this time.
Motor, motor. Good. Keep the
1,
motor.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Good
1
girl.
less than
Look
last
where you
time.
want to go. A little leg. Well done. Good. Good. Sit still. And look. Well done. Good girl. Well ridden. Yes. Tremendous improvement. Delighted. Well done, Sarah, and well done, Ruti. Give him a pat. Seriously, that is the basis to jump a very big track if you wanted to. It's the first beginning, the first stage, and it's so much better.
Yeah. Felt better.
Good. Well done. He's earned his tea. Come on, let's go. Safety is our first priority, and the best way to avoid problems is to have a thorough and progressive preparation. A part of that preparation is to get the right equipment. 3 main things for the rider. First of all, the normal skull cap. Underneath, the stock or hunting tie for support of the neck. And it's something which all the jockeys use, so if they can use it, I would use it as well, but without the pin, definitely without the pin. And then the back protector. Sarah, could you just stand up? That's good. As you stand up, you see that it fits exactly and comes right over the base of the spine and down again. This is something that I would recommend for all riding, in fact. Leg forward. One new thing, the surcingle, to give extra support and just in case there's any problem with the girth. Leg back again. The end of the rein. Not an essential, but very useful. All international riders do it. I've undone the rein, the buckle, put a little reef knot in, and then done the buckle up again and pulled tight. So that if I'm going down a drop fence, you'll find if you really pull on the end of the rein, there's no chance of it breaking. Take up the rein again. And then just moving forward, I've done a plait there at the top of the neck and put it round the bridle. So that if we did have a problem, for instance, you got up around the horse's neck, you wouldn't pull the bridle off, or in fact the bridle could even give you some support. Now, 3 essentials of cross-country riding. Simple. 1, kick on. 2, stick on. And 3, get on the next day. Right, kick on. Mark Phillips gave Lucinda Green one piece of advice when she rode round her first Badminton, and that was kick on, and kick on, and kick on. When you use the leg, Sarah, in the normal position, what does it mean?
Forward.
Yeah, it means forward. In the dressage arena, I use my leg to ask the horse to go forward in a nice, polite way. Will you go forwards? the horse doesn't go forward, so I may have to kick on and tell the horse to go. Come on, we're going to go. Now it may get to a demand situation, because you are not safe to start riding round cross-country fences if your horse does not respond to the leg when you say go forward. And you must know how to get your horse to respond to the leg when the horse is saying no. In which case, you may have to use the stick. When you hold the stick, you put the stick along the line of the thumb, and hold the stick between the thumb and the first finger and the base of the wrist. The reason for that is because if you're going to use the stick as punishment, you have to turn the stick upside down. And you let it fall down between the first and second fingers, and you turn it around, and then use it on the horse's bottom, and then bring it back. If you have all the fingers round the stick, it is very difficult to turn the stick around. So eventually you become very quick with the stick. It's down, and back, and use it, and back. Very quick indeed. The jockey's absolutely magic with it. So, kick on, and if you have to, use the stick to back it up, but you use the stick on the horse's bottom, and only on the horse's bottom. When I was young, when I was your age, my father would be on the ground, and he'd say, go on, you can jump that fence, and he would give me encouragement to jump that fence. He knew I could jump it. Now, the stick can give the same encouragement to your horse. It can be the horse's Dutch courage, if you like. So if you have to use the stick, don't be afraid of doing it, but turn it upside down, use it on his bottom, and put it away. Do not leave it out like that, because if you have it like that, you might poke yourself in the eye and do yourself a nasty injury. That is a no-no to leave the stick. Right, stick on. What's the best way to help your stickability, Douglas?
Balance.
Yeah, well, to improve your balance, to have a good balance. Remember, dressage position, straight line, shoulder, hip, heel. Then, as we shorten the leathers, the seat goes back a little bit, 2, 3, maybe where we are ready to jump some fences in the show jumping arena. Shorten another 2 or 3 holes, because we need to get closer to the horse, and because we need to be able to cope with all the extra movements and the speed that occur in the cross country. So we've shortened our leathers to cross country length. We've got our weight, if you like, more behind the leg, and we have our lower leg here. Now, stickability will be improved if you can have that strength of that lower leg. If necessary, you can stick the lower leg a little forwards, and you should stick the foot leg a little forward on drop fences and going down into waters, and we'll try that later on. But stickability comes from this lower leg. The lower leg position is absolutely vital. Good balance, good lower leg. Right, get on, the third one. By get on, I mean get on the next day, the third day. It is absolutely wrong if you start jumping fences that are beyond your horse's level of ability, beyond your ability perhaps. It's absolutely wrong to start jumping a lot of fences at speed unless your horse has been conditioned for that, unless he's been got fit over quite a long period of time. Long, slow, steady work, gradually leading up to the faster work, gradually leading up to jumping more fences with the faster work. Because if you don't go through that fitting process, the next day your horse will be stiff, tired, maybe lame, and maybe finding it very difficult to move at all. So the best riders, the best trainers, produce their horses in such a way as they come out of the box the next day feeling good. And that's absolutely vital. So the 3 priorities: kick on, stick on, and when I say stick on, you are not off until you hit the ground. So if you think you're coming off, but you can cling on and cling on and cling on, you might find that the horse might just do that and put you back over. So you are not off until you hit the ground. And most of all, get on the next day, so it means that we must give the horses and yourselves the proper long-term preparation. Good. Let's go and do it.
When jumping cross-country fences, both horse and rider have to be in gear. They both want to have such a positive feeling that they want to actually throw their hearts over first. Now this is a lovely picture, a beautiful balanced stride and a superb position. So Douglas is demonstrating a level here which you wouldn't normally see with a rider of this age. Fantastic. Now Sarah's problems of throwing the upper body and having a slightly loose lower leg show up particularly when she's going faster. And we must improve this before we do a whole cross-country course or before we did proper steeplechase fences. These are baby steeplechase fences. But here in slow motion, you can see that she improves her position considerably and stays in a good balance in front of the fence. She closes down to the saddle, but leaves the weight the same. And there is a little rocking on landing, but it really is very much improved.
For the horse to stay in balance. You don't want to start jumping any cross-country fences with the horse being out of balance. So to begin with, increase the speed a little bit, and as you get more confidence and as the horse gets a better balance, then you can increase the speed further. Position-wise, Douglas, that was really excellent to finish at this level. Sarah, some of the problems from the show jumping are coming out with the movement of the upper body. Remember that the shorter you go with the leathers, the less movement of the body there will be. It's the horse that does the jumping, not you. So you have your balance, you're closing down, the horse comes up to meet you, you come down a little bit to meet the horse, but there's very little movement. It's down and up again. The spring comes through the joints of your leg. Little movement is possible. A still load is a light load, remember that. If you throw yourself around, it's difficult for the horse to find his balance. Right, the next thing we're going to do is to jump some fences at an angle. There you had to be straight at the fence. Very important to be straight at the fence. Some cross-country fences we have to jump across them, at an angle to them. So we will try that now.
This is a much more difficult exercise than it looks. We're jumping 3 fences at an angle of 45 degrees. And it places a premium on holding a consistent line. Now to begin with, you can just start with one fence and jump across the fence from right to left, and then repeat the exercise the other way from left to right, and then gradually introduce other fences and even changes of direction after a sequence of fences. When Sarah jumps a line of fences, her position improves greatly. She tends to have quite a good position on landing as long as there's another fence to jump.
So I hope you saw with that last series of angled fences how important it was to keep them between the leg and the hand all the time. You have a passage, you have your 2 leg contacts and your 2 rein contacts, and you keep them between that passage throughout the series of fences. If you throw away the rein in mid-air, possibly to give them more freedom, you'll find that on landing it will take you 1 or 2 strides before you get the rein contact back again, and by that stage you might have missed the next fence. So there's a very important thing for cross-country riding: keep them between the leg and hand, particularly with angled fences. Now we have a different type of fence here, a bank. Very small from this side, but it's got a little drop. So this is a fence that will test your ability both to kick on and stick on. Maybe because the horse is not quite sure of what is the other side of the fence, you may have to ask a little bit more from the leg. And on landing, the security of your lower leg is all important. So let's do it and see how you get on.
Always difficult when the horse can't see the landing. You can see the collapsing of the position on landing with Sarah, but then here in slow motion, Douglas demonstrates well how you can keep a secure position of the lower leg and give the horse the maximum opportunity to get in the air and jump the fence. Because it's no good just sitting out of the back door and hindering the horse. Very safe. And here we ensure that the rider develops a position that is ready to jump another fence by actually putting in a fence at an angle a few strides away from the drop. So as Sarah comes down to the drop again, she's conscious of the fact that she has to land ready to jump the next fence, that she can't afford the luxury of taking half a dozen strides before she's in balance again. Very good over the drop. A really super pony. Good landing. The reins have slipped a little too much, but she maintains a contact. She looks where she's going. A very good exercise indeed. Jumping down into water is just another type of drop fence, where again the lower leg is all important. We start off just by trotting through the water to make sure that the horses are confident that the footing underneath the water is sound. It's very important that we make this a pleasant exercise for the horses and they get confidence about jumping into water. Now here in slow motion, Douglas gives a wonderful example of how to maintain a secure position but still landing ready for another fence. Very soft with the angles, a beautiful balance on landing, and lovely to see him reward the horse so nicely.
So that water fence was just another type of drop fence taken at a slower speed, and we normally would always go more slowly into water. Now this is a rider frightener, a ditch. With me standing in it, this fence looks about 5 foot high, but that's from the base of the ditch, and the horse will not be looking there, and this is the last place where you should be looking. The horse and you will be looking from the top of this fence or on to the next fence. Now, if you look at my stick one moment, if I carry on the line of the ground to the base of the fence there, you'll find that this fence is actually barely 3 foot high. So it's only a psychological frightener that this fence looks quite big. The next fence on here is identical to this fence, except for the fact that I've used the birch to cover up the ditch. And you can see immediately how much easier it looks. Now sometimes it's difficult to believe the true facts when I say that that fence is not difficult because actually it's very small and they won't look at the ditch. But when you see this fence here, you realize that in fact it is very small. And as long as the horse is going forward and both of you are looking up and thinking forwards, you rarely will get a problem. But you still have to introduce your horses to ditches. Do you have any idea how you might start your horses off so that they're not frightened of ditches?
Practice over lots of baby ditches.
Exactly that, Douglas, well done. We used to have an old man called Mr. Burley in the Fawborough Pony Club, and as far as I remember, I never saw him except when he was digging ditches. He was always in a ditch. He used to build lots and lots and lots of little ditches for us on our little ponies to go over until we were no longer frightened of them. It's a psychological fence. Most cross-country courses are built to frighten the riders, but will rarely frighten the horses if the horses have been well prepared. So let's go and see what these horses think of this ditch.
As usual, if the riders and horses are in gear and looking up and forward, ditches are not a problem.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
So it's 8 yards between the second and third elements, and what about between the first and the second?
The same.
Same distance, 8 yards and 8 yards. But first we're going to try these doubles down here. Now they're all set at different distances. Now the one that is closest to us at the moment, the first one, is 9 yards apart. Now that's quite a long one stride, and it'll be particularly for you, Sarah, a long one stride. So you're going to have to increase the speed for that one. The second one, the one in the middle, is set at 7 yards. Now 7 yards is a good pony distance for one stride, as with a normal show jumping round. But for you, Douglas, that's a short one stride, so you're going to have to come in slightly slower than you normally would in a show jumping round. And the last distance is a bounce stride. It's 4 yards. So you come in slowly and the horse comes in over the first fence, he lands, and then he takes off again immediately. And that shows up the good positions, because if your position is good, you land ready to take off for the next fence. So they're all different distances. We've got 8 yards and 8 yards here. The first one is 9 yards, the second one is 7 yards, and then 4 yards. Every one demands a slightly different approach, slightly different speed. Let's see how we get on.
Probably slightly too fast there with the bounce, but good with the 7 yards and the 9 yards. Nicely done, although landing a little collapsed. And well done with the 9 yards. Very even, very safe, very good. And good.
That was very expert. You put the right ingredients in and you got the right result. And sometimes riding can be looked at just like cooking a cake. You put certain ingredients in and you get a certain cake out at the other end of the line. But always remember that a horse is obviously not a cake. A horse is something that's alive. And that's when you must be good horse masters. That's where you must ensure that you look after your horses both before they work and after they work. And it would be silly for us to do more work with Ruti at this stage or with Tubby unless they were both fitter. If you start a horse up with the aim of going round a cross-country course, it may take between 4 to 12 weeks, depending on how old they are and how unfit they are, before they're even ready to begin to do any faster work. And it may take another month at least before they're ready for a whole cross-country course. And you must always remember that the horses must not be damaged, and we must look after them and prepare them to the best of our ability for going round a cross-country course. But thereafter, everything falls into place with good preparation. And I think what you've just shown there is that it becomes very easy when you've got the right ingredients. Now, the last exercise we're going to do now is to jump this corner, which I'm sitting on. You're going to jump a corner, direction becomes absolutely vital. The right line for this corner is from this patch of bare tree to the far tree over there, the second one on the right. Now, if you line up those 2 points, you will always have the right line, and you must have the right line for a corner. So that's the last exercise we're going to do this afternoon. And as my father would say, the most important thing about riding is doing it. So let's do it.
With experience, it becomes easy to work out lines, but to begin with, always take advice from your coach. I have been demanding high standards from Sarah and Douglas during these lessons, because this foundation work is vital. If you want to progress with ease, if you want consistent success, or if you want a long and useful life for your pony or horse, then the foundation work must be right. But most of all, remember to enjoy it. And remember that you are probably much more talented than you realize. So at the end of the day, kick on and stick on.